some of these things can be automated to some small extent. It's not always necessary to brush out the glue on every sheet of paper. We have some gluing machines for that. But when it comes to putting down the end papers, this is the only way. So now you're seeing craftsmanship and tenacity. And there we go. As I said, the shop is full of industrial sculpture. It's beautiful. So there we have it. Not only did he drive me to Maine, but as you'll see momentarily, this was a Ronald Hurwitz Studios production. I just want to digress for one moment because that little film gives the impression that I'm working alone in the shop like some kind of 17th century artisan. And it's not really true. I have and I always have had assistants, and they've been very important to me, much more than just simply an extra pair of hands. I'm always amazed. I've been doing this for 25 years, and I swear a week doesn't go by that I don't learn something new. And I think this is in large part due to the contribution of my assistants. This was my assistant this year. His name was Paul Pagnato. And he was so innovative. He came up with a little variant on one of our procedures that is now enshrined in Lumiere press lore as the Pagnato method. But outside my shop, I've also been fortunate to have an extraordinary support system of people who've guided me and helped me over the years. Guys like, anybody around this room who's ever had a Vandercook press or anything else knows Don Black, who's been indispensable. Guys like Stan Bennington, Coach House, all the guys at CJ Graphics who helped me with the offset aspect of the work. I've even got a couple of members of the A team here. Steve Bulger, who's my longtime dealer and sometimes co-publisher, and Peter Higdon, who's sort of the editorial court of last resort. But there's one guy who went above and beyond the call of duty, and to date he's the only guy with a Lumiere Press Medal of Valor, and this is Alan Phoenix. He single-handedly on our last project manufactured 250 slipcases. And one day he came into work and I had to tell him that the shop foreman had made an error in arithmetic and the slipcases were the wrong size and they all had to be thrown out. I gotta say, Alan was incredibly composed and mature about this. But we were terrified that we'd have to tell Lindsay when she got in. Added to this, I'd also decided all the new slipcases had to be lined in Mylar. At the end, we have a log book we keep in the shop, and at the end of every day we put down our production for the day, little notations about what we've done. And that day, Lindsay wanted to make the entry so that we would have an accurate documentation of our day. And she also did this splendid picture of Alan. All right, back to the book. I selected as the typeface for this book. This is an interesting thing. I'll bet you most of the people in this room who have computers have like hundreds, if not thousands, of typefaces on their machines. In my shop, we have 16. That's 16. It's very limited, but I'm really pleased with the selection. I think they're some of the finest faces ever designed for this machine. And this is the typeface I selected for the Caponegro book. It's called Falcon, and I liked it because it had a soft calligraphic shape to it, and I felt the sort of organic quality that I was attributing to it was sympathetic to the forms in Caponegro's work. And again, like my statement about the photographs, I think selecting the typeface also has to be deeply intuitive. I knew that the book was going to be in question and answer format. So I was a little concerned about the fragmentation of the pages because of the white between the question and answers. So I decided to anchor the page by having running heads and the page numbers, which, to give it a little syncopation, I bracketed with these little dashes. Now, you saw me in the little movie banging away at the machine, knocking out the type. When it comes to something like the running head, where it's all small caps that have to be individually spaced, the machine reverts essentially to hand composition. And this is a little chart we made up to indicate the spacing for this line. So the methodology is essentially, I cast a line of type, I put it on the press and I proof it, I take it to the workbench, examine it, mark it up for alterations in spacing, put in the spaces, put it in the caster, proof it again, and keep on going around and around and around until I get what I want. The title page for this book had perhaps 7 or 8 lines, and it took an entire working day to do that one page. About 8 hours of work. I was still pretty fixated on the signature as a potential design element, so I had the guys at CJ Graphics scan it for me. And when they did, it came back a little chunky and bitmapped. So I went back one night and I was talking to the guy in the pre-press department. I said, what can we do about this? And he looked at it and said, well, I think the best thing is if we essentially outline it and hand draw it. And that's what he came up with. And it's different from the pencil sketch, or the pencil signature rather, but I loved it. I thought this was really terrific. So I took the signature and I placed it as the cornice of the structure of the title page, buttressing it with these lines of small caps. But I really felt that something was missing. By this time, I'd worked out the general scheme of the book, the text pages, the relationship and size of the illustrations. But, you know, I was still trying to find the element that would tie the whole project together.